This year's theme is We Are the Heartbeat of Education, and the mantra that goes with that is to merge the past with the present to influence the future. If you do decide to join, there is a scan there that you can look to join, or you can go onto the shapepa.org website. I ask that you mark your calendars for November 12th and 13th because the Shape PA conference will be at Spooky Nook Sports Complex as it has been in the past. So we hope to see you there. Just a few housekeeping items and reinforcing what Corey said at the beginning. Please keep your microphone muted, and when you have a question, you can unmute and then ask the question. This session is being recorded, and at the conclusion of the session, you'll have the opportunity to complete a form to receive Act 48 credit. That's another perk. All you need is your PPID number and fill out the form. Next week, we have our next professional development webinar. Liz is also a part of this one, and Dan Stover and Sean Beam will be doing From Planning to Play, creating PD that reflects the heartbeat of education. I hope you can join us for that one as well. And with no further ado, I'm here to introduce our presenters for this evening, Dave Schmidt and Liz Potash. And the webinar is entitled From Classroom to the Capitol, Advocate Across Pennsylvania. So I'll turn it over to Liz and Dave. Welcome.
Thank you, Linda.
All right, we should be good to go.
Ready.
All right, thank you everyone for hopping on tonight. I see lots of familiar faces over joining us. So as Linda said, our session tonight is From Classrooms to the Capitol, speaking about advocacy. We'll introduce ourselves here. My name is Liz Potash. I teach health and physical education in the Council Rock School District. I'm on the eastern side of the state in Bucks County. I also serve as our district curriculum coordinator, so I oversee our 14 schools and about 40 teachers, all of our programs for the district, and happy to be co-presenting tonight with Dave Schmidt.
Thank you, Liz. Dave Schmidt. This is my 34th year at North Allegheny School District in the suburbs of Pittsburgh. I've been an elementary, middle school, and high school teacher for the last 25 plus years at high school, coach, official, do a little bit of everything. And fortunately, I've had the chance to advocate. I've had the chance to go to our nation's capital, to our state capital, and really have enjoyed the experiences and would love to share what we've done in our backyard. And I also wanted to make sure to mention who really got me into is Bev Martin and Jeff Jacobs. They're not here tonight, but they are two people I've done more for advocacy in Pennsylvania and Shape PA than anybody I know. So I always like to give them a shout out when we're talking advocacy.
Great. So tonight, basically tried to keep it nice and short here in terms of what we'll be doing. But when we're talking about, why we're here tonight is to talk about advocacy. And we are learning this because if we don't advocate for our programs, nobody will. And our goal is for you to walk away at the end of the night with some strategies or tools to help you advocate starting tomorrow, and then also things that you can do in the future. As far as our presentation this evening, we've kind of broken it down into 4 pieces. So we're going to start with you on step 1, delivering meaningful programs. We'll look into some evidence and research where we start to look at some meaningful programs and then also tie in some facts that will help you advocate. In step 3, we're really going to talk about what advocacy can look like at both the local, state, and then national levels. And then we do have a list of resources for you, including Jeff Jacobs' website, as Dave just mentioned. And then, of course, our contact information is there as well. We also put for you in the chat the presentation to the link for tonight's presentation. And then there's also a QR code as well.
All right. Thanks, Liz. Just want to take a moment and talk about the gains of perspective, I think sometimes when I'm talking to teachers, we don't realize the impact we can have. And I think what we have available to us is what so many other people want. We have an audience. We have pretty much every child in Pennsylvania is going to come through our classes, and we're going to have the opportunity to impact them. And to do that, we need to think about, that looking upstream from what's happening, or downstream in this case. We have a healthcare problem in America. We have all sorts of issues that we're dealing with, and we have the power to make a difference. So, 93% of our trillion spent from the American government is spent on treatments, and 7% on prevention. We're part of that 7%, but we have a chance to talk to every child. Do we want to be spending, trillions of money on treating illness, or do we want to prevent it in the first place? And I think that's where we have the opportunity to start showing our students what we can do to help them by having them look at what's coming at them, nutritional choices, the social media choices, all the things that we can do on top of and including promoting physical activity and physical education.
So we want to turn it over to all of you. You can go ahead and use the chat room, or if you want to unmute, you certainly can. But looking at this first slide, we're just looking to get a little feel. When you hear, what is advocacy? When you think of that word, what do you think of? And have you ever been an advocate in your lifetime? So go ahead and tell us your thoughts on what it means. You can see there's a couple definitions. And then, of course, if you're familiar with our national standard, Standard 8 on the health education side, is all about advocacy. So we see this term all over. All right, I see our first post in here says standing up for something you believe in, talking about it, posting, being involved. That's great. I don't know if there's any other thoughts. All right, increasing knowledge about your actions in the classroom and beyond. Great, we're going to hit on that tonight. Hi, Dawn. Advocate means speaking up for what you believe and helping others to see the value in getting others involved in promoting the idea. Awesome. Okay, so sounds like we have a pretty good feel here in terms of what that means. And of course, if we're going to ask our students to do it, then who are better advocates, than ourselves? So the first step in when it comes to advocacy, I was at a really great presentation last year at the National Conference on Advocacy by Mark and Becky Fulmer, who run the CBHPE website. And it was, really kind of mind-blowing to me that they said the first step to advocacy is delivering quality health and physical education programs to your students. If we don't deliver quality programs, we have nothing to advocate for. So that was a real it really blew my mind when I heard that. It seems so simple. So basically what we're going to present on to start is talking about this idea of how do we present meaningful and relevant standards-based curriculum to our students in both health and physical education, and knowing that that may look different for different communities depending on what you have access to and what your resources are. And honestly, on the phys ed side, how do people in your community stay active? Those are all big pieces to deliver a quality program. So, as we know, our national standards have introduced the terms health literacy and physical literacy to us. And those are the goals of our program. We want our students to be health literate and we want them to be physically literate. And for us to be able to do that, we really do want to deliver that quality program.
I think to add on to that, Liz, I think one of the things we want to talk about there too is, we are all certified as health and physical education teachers, and sometimes we lose the health and we don't realize kids don't get enough time in the health classroom. And so we can supplement that in our physical education classroom. And if we're very deliberate in how we do that, we can be teaching about health skills at the same time as we're talking about physical skills. And so I wanted to share just a couple of ways that I do that in my classes and ways we talk about doing it. Go ahead, Liz, please.
Yep.
Okay, so one example is just talking about thinking about what in your school is the biggest issues that you're dealing with and trying to get on the team with your administration, your guidance counselors, your wellness initiatives, and all those things. And I know in our school, and I think in every school in America right now, mental health is a big issue. So one of the things we started talking about this year is, not only are we developing physical skills, we're also trying to get kids their daily dose. And I'm very proud that I'm a lifelong learner, as our president, lifelong learning, Linda. I'll piggyback off of that. But I want to teach the kids how to be lifelong learners and show them that from reading, from expanding our horizons, we can learn quite a bit. And the daily dose we're talking about comes from a great website that I found in a book that I read recently. It talks about the kids getting their dopamine, their oxytocin, their serotonin, their endorphins daily through physical activity, through slow movements, through slow gains. And we do that by figuring out that they have the remote control in their body to control those things. Anxiety is just a physical signal oftentimes that there's something wrong. They're not sleeping, they're eating too much sugar, they're self-medicating, they're doing things that are to raise that anxiety. And we can show kids how to manage their anxiety. And not that we're going to be a psychiatrist or a psychologist and fix every issue, but if their physical needs are being met in every way, then that's much less likely to happen. Thinking about your exit strategy, deep breathing, things like that. We can incorporate these through our classes and realize that health and PE can boost those feel-good brain chemicals, and it can reduce the cortisol that causes stress. We can foster confidence through personal achievements. And one great example here is, go ahead, Liz, you're good. I need a kick in the pants to move on sometimes. I appreciate it. How fast versus slow dopamine. And our kids, one of the issues that they're having today, and our whole culture really is, we're hooked on fast dopamine. As you can see the students on the right there, they're holding their energy drinks. They're looking at their phones, checking to see if they got any notifications. Take a minute and think about this, all my teachers in the room. How many of your kids, as soon as class is over, if your phones are stored, are running to check their phone? Every period, every day, they're running to get their phone because that's that dopamine hit. They got to know what they're missing out on. They're coming in drinking energy drinks. So how can we earn our dopamine? Social media gives us that quick hit. Exercise gives you slow dopamine. It lasts for a longer time. Mouth breathing increases stress. Slow nasal breathing relaxes you. Your muscles are a pharmacy. Or you self-medicate using things, outside sources, or you use your muscles to self-medicate naturally. And then that brain is always under construction. I'm not going to teach every slide like this, but just the idea that as we go through them, we can make differences for our kids in ways other than just movement. One example here from when we're in our cardio lab. I'm not having my kids sit and watch videos, but when we're in our winter cardio unit and the kids are in the lab anyways, there's lots of different things we do, but we might take a moment and play a video from, if you're not familiar with this site, Natural High is a great site where they're taking famous musicians, famous athletes, scientists, artists, people that every kid in your classes can connect with, and they talk about their teenage years. They talk about their natural high, how they learn to relax, how they learn to connect. And Maya, this video here is one of my favorites. She talks about how she had to make those hard decisions when she was 14 and 15 to lean into that slow dopamine and pursue her craft and not get distracted by the drama of the relationships, the self-medicating, the alcohol, the drugs, the vaping, and all those things. And she had to stay on her path, and how hard that was, but also how rewarding it was. So there's lots of stories like Maya's on that site, and we'll show those during class. So we're getting the physical part, the fitness part, and the health part all together. I'll leave that. That'll be in there later. And when you have a chance to get this presentation, that video's in there. And I strongly recommend checking out that website. Your diet, we think about, we're eating all day long. I've just started on a new book recently from a podcast I found, and it is really good. It talks about why we eat what we eat, our physical appetite, our social appetite, our other types of appetite, where we're constantly being prodded to eat all the time. We think about food all day long because we're used to having food all day long. So we need to learn to teach kids about why they are always hungry and how corporations are impacting them through social media, through putting things in front of them all the time, and just try to get them to realize that it's not about calories in, calories out. They think it is, but this is another example of how we can better educate kids and advocate. So they advocate, say, hey, listen to what I learned in health today. We needed more of this. We need more content. At our open house, where we have every parent sit down and not talk about our policies or our syllabus or anything like that, we talk about what we're teaching kids, and parents are writing down the names of books, and they're realizing, I wish I had a class like this when I was in school. So homeroom is open house is a great way to advocate. Something as simple as How to Eat by Mark Bittman and I forget his name, David. He's the head of the Yale University nutrition lab, but it's basics. So how can we do a better job of that? And that's another cardio lab. The kids are talking, or we're rotating, we're reflecting after I talk about it. So I spend a minute talking, the kids talk about it with each other as they're working on their cardio machines.
Great. Thank you, Dave, for building all of the why behind, what it is that we are trying to do and advocate for. So when you are delivering that quality health and physical education program, we know that we want it to be standards based. And our national standards were just recently updated. Our PA standards are, in the works. Hopefully within the next year and a half or so, we will have those in play. But when we're talking about that program, we want to make sure that it's skills based. And of course, on the PE side, that's always been a no-brainer to have a skills based program. But as we know, our health standards as well are skills based. What are the skills that our students need to be healthy? And making sure that we are well versed in what those standards are so that we can deliver that quality program. So I am in year 4 teaching at the elementary level. I started my career in middle school, did 9 years, went to the high school for 10 years, and now I'm in year 4 at the elementary. And having that lens of seeing all 3 levels is just led for a really, interesting perspective and seeing all of those pieces. So with our national PE standards, they just last year when they were updated, in 2024, they went from 5 standards down to 4. And for the elementary focus, it really is very heavy on standards 1 and 2. And the reason we talk about that is because when you look at the term of physical literacy talks about competence and confidence to move. And what we know from research is that as students get older, the reasons that they may be more hesitant to participate in phys ed in the secondary level is because they are missing those skills and they are not competent or they are not confident. And now we see kids that don't want to participate in PE. So that elementary focus is so big to teach the locomotor skills, the non-locomotor skills. What are the strategies that we need? What are the skills that they need to be able to really become competent and confident movers so that we can continue to build, that physical literacy?
And our secondary focus, and coming back to those standards, just a little tidbit there. I was fortunate enough to be on the writing team and very happy with how our standards are looking. And Liz was on there with me. And while we can't share them yet because they're going through review, we can say that they are very well aligned with the national standards and everything we're talking about here tonight. So if you're following national, it's going to be an easy transition for you. Our secondary focus, think about the kids that have had positive experiences, negative experiences in PE. I think when I talk to parents about this, or when I talk to politicians, when I went to Washington, D.C. and went to the state capitol, these messages resonate with them. They understand the physical, they understand the cognitive. The 2 aspects we're talking about now, standards 3 and 4, those social skills, and being very deliberate how we do that. We don't want to just talk about, hey, you have to have good sportsmanship, and that's very generic. And my kids, I say, what do you need for teamwork? Well, I need to be a good team player and have good sportsmanship. What's it mean? We need to be deliberate. We need to get kids to learn to work with each other, kids that aren't the same as them. Recognize that every student has something to offer, whether they're an extrovert or an introvert, whether they're aggressive, assertive, or passive. We need to draw out each other and realize we all have something to give, and we all have some shortcomings too, and learn to lean on each other. So standard 3, that's what it's all about. And how can we do a better job of getting kids to feel like they fit in? Too many kids in physical education mention, when I ask them to reflect on their past experiences, how they didn't fit in and they dread coming to class sometimes. How can we be very deliberate in how we work with kids to make them feel welcome? And that's what we're going to talk about now. And then in standard 4, they develop the skills and identify as somebody who finds a way that they love to move. And that doesn't all have to look the same and definitely should not look all the same. We have, as PE teachers, I think we're a lot of A-type personalities. We're athletes or ex-athletes, but athletics isn't the right way for everybody. If you look at the blue zones, you see people who garden, who walk, who hike, who are active lots of other ways and have tremendously long, healthy, enjoyable lives. We need to make sure kids understand that there's more than one right way to do this and help them to find their why without judging that their why is different than our why. And everybody can be physically active and move. And if you haven't listened about the blue zones yet or read about, just Google it. Some great examples of great ways to be healthy throughout your life. Our students are our best advocates, without a doubt. If our kids are going home and talking about what we do and are excited about our classes, and we can collect that data and share it with our administration and share it with our legislators, that's going to go a long way. We have some of Liz's kids climbing the cargo net and doing the parachute and doing all those fun things that we remember so well from PE. And the other three pictures are our kids. They're out biking in nature. You notice not all of our pictures are in nature, but most of them are. We try to get kids outdoors to love being outside, whether it's a team building, triangle traverse, or a ravine crossing or mountain biking in the trails. It's connecting with themselves and connecting with each other first. Our next slide, thinking about that experience first advocacy, we can't advocate without providing a quality experience first. And I can't tell you how many times it happened. Almost every person I talked to in Washington, D.C., in the senator's offices, in the representatives' offices, and the same thing in Pennsylvania, first thing they did was talk about their PE experiences. And that's what pretty much most of the population think program is whatever they experienced when they were in high school. And unfortunately, those weren't all great experiences. So we need to make sure that they understand what we do now, and we do that through being great teachers and having our kids advocate for us. The number one step to increasing support for programs is to give students what they need for a healthy lifetime, meaningful experiences that empower them to find their own unique path to wellness. And we're going to talk a little bit about how to do that. And that's meaningful PE. And I've been talking about this extensively. And the thing I'm really excited about, I went to New Orleans to our national convention. It was 5 or 6 years ago. And I saw a person talking about this who's now going to be a headliner at our state convention this year. And as typical as me, I'm drawing a blank. It'll come to me shortly and I'll share it with you. Or Linda, you can chime in if you want, but one of our headliners is a great, meaningful PE person. Go ahead, Linda.
Christy Malley.
Dr. Christy Malley, and she's awesome. She's does it in so many different ways, but she lit the fire in me, and I've been pursuing it for years and years now. And there's so many great advocates for this method throughout. It's not a new curriculum. It's taking what we teach and looking at it through all these different lenses: social interaction, motor competence. The motor competence we know. The just right challenge, adjusting challenges for different kids. If we say, oh, you're going to love this today, it's going to be easy. Well, that's not the same for everybody. Easy is, by labeling something as easy, we're prejudging it. What's easy for me might be hard for somebody else. Making it relevant. How can we have different entry levels and points to what we do so all kids can find it relevant in their way? Finding delight, that time when you lose track of time and you're just loving what you're doing and you're lost in it. And then fun, from a sense of satisfaction, not necessarily just goofing around kind of fun. And that all comes together with social interaction. But that's the basics of meaningful PE. You can explore that more on your own. And I think we have some resources in the end also.
So another model that you might be familiar with, or maybe this is new for you when we're talking about physical education on that side, is the WISC model. And that's the whole school, whole community, whole child model. And that's a framework to use schools as a way to provide opportunities for students to be physically active. And then through the WISC model, that includes physical education and physical activity. And then you get to the CISPAP, which is the Comprehensive School Physical Activity Program, which is a framework for planning and organizing activities. And when we were thinking about trying to provide a couple of different frameworks for you, meaningful PE, WISC model, all of these things, it tied in well. I'm a part of a cohort this year through Slippery Rock University where I'm doing some work in my school district with this. And it's perfect timing that our webinar is tonight, because on Thursday evening, I'm hosting our first ever wellness night at my school for my students and their families. And it's been a lot of fun planning it. I've literally been doing it all year, and to see it coming into play on Thursday night, 25 vendors coming from all different sorts of avenues when it comes to wellness. So doing events like that, well, of course, there takes a lot of planning to do it, is also another great way to advocate. And then, of course, it was all through this model. We do have some resources at the end if you are interested in learning more about it, or if you even want to join the cohort for next year. I have some information on how you can join that. It's been a really educational experience for me, and then it's been a great cohort to be able to learn from all of these people as well. So now that we have kind of built the why in terms of what is it that we are advocating for, and giving you some ideas in terms of how do I provide that meaningful and relevant curriculum, the next step in advocacy is really know your facts. We really can't advocate without the good programs, but then if we don't know what is currently expected, we're a little bit behind the eight ball. So these resources, again, are available at the end of the presentation, where you can pull up the fact sheets for Pennsylvania. And then these are things that you can use, these handouts, to take right to administration, to your principal. You can send them home in newsletters, or you could post them digitally through social media sites. And what it allows you to do is that when you are, competent and you are confident, in what the facts are, now you know what you're advocating for. So on the left-hand side, you see specifically for Pennsylvania what the requirements are when it comes to health and physical education. You can look at that short list and you can say, yes or no, my school district is doing this. And if you see it as a no, it's who do I contact to say, hey, how do I get more programming? And then, of course, Dave built so much of this into the slides, but just looking at, we know how much physical education and health can really impact student success. And I know Dave does a lot in terms of reading on his own and professionally developing. And it's probably 10 years ago that I read the book Spark by Dr. John Ratty, and that one was mind-blowing for me. It totally transformed everything that we do in our health and physical education programs, because it built so much of, not that exercise can cure, right? But it can do a lot to help, remediate, a lot of different diseases out there. And there is a link in the resources as well to a specific school that was referenced in that book. And you can kind of watch how their phys ed programs transformed in terms of putting high performing students in first period phys ed and watching their test scores go through the roof, right? Because they were active first period of the day, and what exercise does to your brain cells. The other thing in terms of knowing your facts is this idea of where are you pulling, your data from. So a lot of obviously resources out there. Maybe your district is using, the YRBSS data, the Youth Risk Behavior Surveillance System, which is a national survey that monitors health risk behaviors among youth. Perhaps your school in Pennsylvania is using the PAYS. This was a PAYS data year. So students, depending on what your district, does, can be as young as fourth grade, 6th, 8th, 10th, and 12th. And then that information is public information, right? So that is information for the district level that anyone can get. I know in my district, I'm invited each year of the PAYS year to look at the data that comes out specifically for our school district. And I've got myself on those committees so that I can meet with pupil services. And we directly take that PAYS data, what our students are reporting in our district, and we now tie them into our health classes. So for example, we saw an increase obviously in vaping a couple years ago. That education has increased, but we also saw a rise in our district with gambling. We have a casino not far from our school district, so we now bring in a lot more education on gambling, including an outside presentation. So that type of data has really been important for us, and it helps to drive our curriculum. And when our administration can look at what the PAYS data is showing, and then they can look to our health and phys ed programs and see that we are providing the information that we need, that's a huge boost for your programs. Of course, there's information that you can collect, district data level that might be very just specific to your school. And then, of course, there's also student, data. What kind of reflections and surveys are you administering that Dave will speak to more about what your students really need?
And on that note, if you think about who here gets excited about their SPMs, I don't think anybody does, but I think one of the best things we've done, we got a new principal a few years back, and it was the first day of school, no students yet. We're in the auditorium, and she's talking about our Keystone scores. And as you might imagine, teachers weren't terribly excited about that topic. But she mentioned one area that our school wanted to do better on. One of the goals was they wanted to do better at writing for understanding and reflective writing. And right away, what I heard when I heard reflection was I thought meaningful PE, and I thought this is what we've been doing. We've been doing this for a while now. We're having kids reflect on our units. So I waited till after the session and I talked to her, and I talked to our English department chair. And in my district, we're very fortunate we have a curriculum senate, which is all department chairs, so we know each other pretty well. I said, hey, I have an idea. And after we talked it through, what we did is this on the left here on the slide, we took our physical education reflections and asked all the teachers to have their kids reflect using meaningful PE principles and reflect on every unit they completed in health and physical education. We then took that and I sat down with the teacher and said, here's what we want to look for. First of all, it's a big confidence boost because we get a lot of positive feedback from kids and we get a better understanding of what they understand. We used AI heavily to reflect and analyze that data and tell us what the students' writing strengths and weaknesses were. We had over 1,500 examples, actually 1,400 examples as I look at the data in front of me. But after they reflected, the English department took all that data, which was de-identified. It didn't have student names or teacher names associated with it. And they looked at it from a writing standpoint. What's students' writing look like on this topic? And they came up with rubrics and ways that they can better help students be writers. But more importantly, our teachers, all 8 of our teachers in the building, got to better understand students and how they feel about their classes and how they feel about every unit. And then we adapted what we teach and how we teach it to the student wants and needs, which build connections. And if we didn't agree with what the student said, we'd say, hey, here's why we don't agree, because we want to do this, or we feel this is important and we're missing that. But we gained a lot of administrative support. And I think we have that shows in our budget and how, because they see us going above and beyond and connecting with kids this way, our budgets have gone up consistently from when we started to do these things. And then another example, that SPM affected the entire school, and our scores have gone up. And then over here on the right, our student HP reflections. This is one topic. We talked about our students really trying to identify how well they feel connected within the school. And this question I asked all the teachers, we asked them questions about all the components of meaningful PE, but this is the one I asked everybody to really focus on. And this just happens to be one unit of my class, end of the unit reflections. But if you look, all the teachers are collecting this data and kids are saying, I feel accepted for who I am in health and physical education. And they're all saying agree or strongly agree, or mostly. And then if they didn't understand the question or they disagree, that's only a couple of students, but guess what? That provides an opportunity for me to, on the side somewhere where it's not embarrassing or confrontational, say, hey, I really appreciate that you were honest with me. Can you please share with me how I can better help you? And that's really built a lot of trust and bridges. There's mutual respect between students and teachers in PE. I was thrilled to see that rated the way it was I want to demonstrate respect and expect it from them also with each other and between students and teachers. I get to work with a variety of people in health and phys ed, and you see that going on there. And that's something I saw as a little bump in the disagree. But I think I do need to break it up and mix it up a little bit more. And then I can build new or old friendships in health and physical education. I don't know that's what we've always been about. I think it's a byproduct sometimes, but I think we can be deliberate in how we do this and what areas we focus on. And that's something I'm really proud of. And I think that's helped us to have better advocacy with the kids themselves and with the parents when they see they're connecting in class. That's also something I showed to the school board when we gave our yearly report, which was a nice opportunity to for them to see what we're doing.
So we've taken some time to build the why, to show what it looks like to deliver and how to deliver quality programs, and then even talk about some of the data and the facts and the numbers that you want to be able to kind of commit to some memory so that you can make these elevator pitches. So now we wanted to take, about 15 minutes or so, or, whatever time, we can until we can take some questions to maybe just focus in on what this looks like, advocate, and how to do it. So once you have all of those programs in place and you have that meaningful curriculum that is worth advocating for, what does that actually look like? So at the local level, it can look a lot of different ways. For my own personal experiences, I do this at the building level. I also am able to do this at the district level with my position. And then I'm also able to do this at the county level. I work in Bucks County, and in Bucks County, we have 13 school districts, and we have a health and phys ed liaison that we work together with. So I have connections across the county as well. And this can look a lot of different ways. But at the very basic local level, it can look like, the first part here, inviting your stakeholders in. Do you have an opportunity to invite your principal into the classroom, and not for any kind of formal observation? Is it just, you see them in the classroom or in the hallway and say, hey, can you stop down today? Do you have an opportunity to invite school board members into your classes? There's different programs out there. Can you take your parent to PE week and let them experience what that meaningful PE actually looks like? And to Dave's point, and I think we all know this, we still run into so many people who think of phys ed as maybe what their experience was. And if their experience wasn't a positive one, then they certainly are thinking that that's what is happening in the classroom now as well. So really let them experience what it is. I know for us in my school district in January, our district has an education week, and during that week, PE and the music, we come together and we do a combo dance lesson, and we teach the students how, it's a part of the PE curriculum and the music curriculum, and it's been really successful. And when the parents come in, we make them get up and dance with us as well. So it's been a really nice connection that we've been able to build. The next one on there talks about, that idea of the elevator pitch. So when you see the administrator in the hallway, have one of those facts ready, have one of those research points ready about, whether it's about the money that we spend on prevention versus, treatment versus prevention, or talking about, the daily dose and the dopamine and the serotonin hits that the kids are experiencing in the classroom, and have those pieces ready to just be able to share, what it is that's happening. And aside from this idea of saying, this is the game we are playing today, it's, what is the why behind it, right? And what are they really getting out of it? And then really, thinking about how you're communicating that out. Does your school send home, a weekly newsletter? Do you have your own communication channel? And when you do that, not paragraphs of information, but just bulleting and headliners, in terms of either what's happening or just, passing on again some of those science and those information that you can really capture, with parents, you can get their attention. And then finally, at the local level, joining your wellness committee. Every school district in Pennsylvania, it's actually federal law, needs to have a wellness committee. So finding out about that committee, finding out if you can have a seat on the committee. My district was a little bit behind in that, and ours really got up and running last year. And as soon as, I got word of that, I sent an email and got myself on the committee, and have been very active and involved with it. In fact, as I'm finishing up preparing for my own wellness night at my building level on Thursday, I'm now also leading a district wellness night in the fall, and something that I'm really looking forward to. And we've had some really great ideas generate from those ideas.
Thank you, Liz. And I'm going to piggyback off of that real quickly, just because we had a great email that came out today. Our elementary department, they do a fundraiser for our area's community outreach program, and they've raised $70,000 this year for food in the area. They're the biggest every year. They're the biggest fundraiser they have every year. But think about that was in the Pittsburgh papers all over the place today. Our elementary teachers are being quoted in the newspaper about how much it matters to the kids that they get to go out and pack boxes for the needy people in the community, and we're being held up there. So all those things matter. Everything we do where we're getting some recognition matters, and I think that can go a long way. At the state level, advocacy really think about strength in numbers. Both when I went to the nation's capital and the state capital, one of the questions they ask is, well, tell us about your organization. How many people are in your organization? So one of the ways that you do make a difference is by being a member. The bigger our numbers, the bigger our weight carries when we go in and talk to our legislators. So joining Shape PAs, I think, is a great frontline defense. It's an opportunity for you to become a better teacher, to connect with other people, and maybe we form letters and we send letters to our representatives, but we have a more informed front, and you find out about things that are coming down the pike faster than somebody else. But we're not paid lobbyists, but we get to volunteer and go out there. And I tell you what, it was such a fun day in those legislative days. If you haven't done it, I highly recommend it. I was very fortunate at the state level and really the national level too, that I'm in a pretty good school district, a very good school district, and we had several parents who happened to be legislators in our district. So that got me into the Speaker of the House's office, who got me into a senator's office who was not on our side of the fence at all, but he said, hey, I'll give you 5 minutes because, I was asked to. And then 45 minutes later, we're still talking about his PE experience, and he was in his 60s versus what it is today. And he was very eager to hear about it. And it was really enlightening for him. It was enlightening for me on how the process works. And I walked away feeling like, hey, we're in a time when so many people are disappointed in our government. I feel like I had an impact and they wanted to listen. It mattered. So I think we can do those things and we can impact them. When our state standards come out, they're going to be put up for approval and for comments. Follow along. They're going to have local comment sessions. I've testified, I think, 3 different times trying to get rid of replacing physical education with athletics. And we've been able to hold that off for a long, long time because people come out and support. And this is one area we can do that at those meetings where they're putting our standards out there, where they're proposing items. They have to get public input, and we can be speaking at those letters. If we can't speak there, we can send letters to our legislators. Monitor state standards. I think we've got some really good ones coming out. It is a process. It's going to take almost a year and a half to go through the process. But if you see that they're coming to your town and they're asking for feedback, read them over and give your honest feedback and support them. Or if you think there's something could be better, let us know where we could get better. But that's at the state level. At the national level, as we look
Sorry,
into
Dave,
that.
I'll hop in. I can hop in one more. I'm sorry. On the state level as well. And Shape didn't give me a plug to say this, but it did just occur to me that with my position, I do the budgeting for my department. And right at the end of my budgeting period last year, I realized I had a pool of money and I was trying to think of how to spend it. And I was actually able to get a membership for all 42 teachers in my district of Shape PA. And when I contacted Shape, I said, hey, I want 42 memberships. They did an amazing job of discounting it so I could work within my budget. But then I purposely budgeted for it. And so this year I was able to renew that membership for all 42. And for all of the reasons, that Dave spoke to, it's a strength in numbers. It's all this access now that, some of my teachers didn't have before. So if you're in a position where you can even speak to the budgeting side of it, that money can go a long way at the state level and what that can look like.
Great point, Liz. Thanks for sharing. Okay, at the national level, just think again, the Speak Out Day. If you don't get a chance to go down there, it's just so empowering. And you say, I don't know what to do. Well, they take you to a hotel. They give you a half-day session on talking points. So when you go into those meetings, you have talking points. You have a team of people with you, some of whom are experienced. They want new people though too. It's a great opportunity to go down and really feel like you make a difference. We walked through the halls of the representative house. We went over to the Senate, met with senators and their staffs. You don't always get to meet with the senators and representatives, but oftentimes the staff. But highlight of my trip, walking down the hall after meeting with Senator Casey's staff, and guess who's walking the other way? It's Senator Casey. And I said hello and hey, thanks so much. We just met with your staff and we had a 15-minute hallway meeting. His staff on hand was not very happy about that. He was late for something else, but he took the time and it was just a great opportunity. So again, keep doing that. Sign up for Shape America's advocacy alerts. And if you're doing quality things, hopefully we don't need to alert people because we're being supported. But sometimes not everybody's doing the right things, and we do need to keep advocating. Um, Title, what's it? Title IV funding. This is the federal money that supports well-rounded subjects. Ask your district's federal programs coordinator how they are spending their ESSA money, because that can go to anybody. It can purchase HPE equipment. It can purchase professional development. It's not just for math or science or the STEAM subjects. It can be spent in any area where the school most needs it. So that's a huge pot of money coming from the federal government. Talk to the people in your building area, in your district, and see where that money is and how it, if you have an idea that you can do something good for kids, what are your district's priorities, and how can that ESSA type funding help support that mission? Leverage national toolkits. Don't reinvent the wheel. Shape America has so many good things, from position statements on what makes up quality PE, how to advocate, physical activity as punishment, PE waivers, all those things that unfortunately people still use sometimes, and why it's not a good idea, and and show might help to show you how what you do is different than athletics. Athletics are fantastic. They have their place. I'm a referee. I'm a coach. I'm an athlete. I love my athletics, but they're very different than what a quality physical education program is. It's a different side of the fence, and to be equated with them, I think is not doing us justice.
Yeah, and it actually makes a good plug, Dave, for our webinar next week in just talking about how to provide meaningful professional development to be able to, speak to all of those points. So your first opportunity to advocate is just coming up. It's around the corner. But if you haven't received some of these emails yet, I know we talked about at the state level, joining Shape PA, but Shape America is a fantastic organization as well, if, you can budget for that one. So National PE and Sport Week is, coming up May 1st to May 7th. And I did link this one in the resources as well. There's a lot of resources, even things that you can send home, opportunities if your school allows it to invite, people to come in, parents and things along those lines, and even just some activity calendars. If you do have a mailer that you send home, a newsletter, something digital that you can link to, and you can give people ideas and invite them in for this opportunity. I know we went over a lot of information with you tonight, and we really did our best to try to make sure that you had plenty of resources. So we wanted to get you all of the information. So you have, Shape PA's advocacy site, and then the state fact sheet that I shared. Same thing for Shape America. If you are interested in the CISPAP program and the cohort like I'm a part of, I know that they're going to continue that. So that's information how to continue. Dave mentioned a lot of the work that he has done at the state level. So if you click on the link for Find My PA Legislator, that would give you the contact information so that when those, bills come out that try to replace athletics with PE, you know exactly where to go. And Shape does a great job of putting out, letters where you basically just have to sign your name and plug it away to make sure that you stop that. Again, links to, just some of the different things in the presentation. Of course, Jeff Jacobs, who is a Shape PA member and, has served in many roles. His website is outstanding. If I ever have an issue in my district that I think sounds a little bit off, Jeff is the first person I call to say, hey, help me out with this, because he knows a whole lot when it comes to this world of advocacy. And then the bottom two links are just some, more thoughts in terms of like building that why and being able to show that what we do is really meaningful. It's really important, and we want to be able to share that with others so that we can show that what we are doing. And then finally, Dave and I'm sorry, go ahead, Dave.
If we go back to the last slide,
Yep.
just something I meant to mention and I forgot. And when you're contacting your legislators, it is nice that they have templates of letters. But also, when we talk to the legislators that we did, make sure if you can personalize it a little bit and talk about your program and what happens in your district, especially if you're sending it to the legislators from your district, that can go a long way. You can talk about your athletics and how they're successful, but here's what we do in our classes that's different. And it's amazing how many times, almost probably half the legislators I saw were talking about their kids and their experiences. And it was very fortunate you could connect that way. And Mark and Becky Fulmer, that Liz mentioned earlier from the National Convention, Mark Fulmer, I saw him speak at Kansas City a couple of weeks ago, and he mentioned about through doing that, he actually became a person who was is now on his local senator's advisory committee. He sits down on a committee and advises the senators on things related to education. So if you become involved enough, something that could happen, and you can have a bigger voice.
And Dave and I are always happy to be a resource for you. Our contact information is there. Feel free to, reach out by email. We put the presentation link over in the chat, and then the QR code will get that, the presentation as well. We really do hope that you found this beneficial, starting with the most basic level of making sure that you're delivering quality health and phys ed instruction, right? If we do that, then our students become our best advocates when they talk up the programs. When we know the facts and we know the information to be able to share for those elevator pitches and things like that, we can now get involved at the, most local level. And then, that work can just take you state, national, and, even international and beyond. And we know that our programs are really worth advocating for. So by us, being able to spread that word and provide that meaningful instruction to our students, we know the goal is we want our students to be, healthy and happy and live meaningful lives. And we know that we are in my opinion, the best subject to be able to enhance that.
All right, I think that's all we have for tonight. Does anybody have any questions? All right, President Linda, turn it over to you.
I want to thank you for the wealth of information that you've shared this evening. You certainly gave a reservoir of ways to advocate from classroom to